most people won't openly admit it or say it out loud. Like nobody's gonna say this out loud, and nobody's going to admit it to themselves or tell the truth to themselves. But a lot of people honestly think that they know better than God, and they just don't trust God. And it's kind of like when you think you know better than your parents, even though you don't say that to their face, or you just don't say it out loud, period. But that's how you're acting. Like you're acting like you think you know better than people that have been on earth way longer than you. But that's how most people treat God. Like a lot of us think that we know way better than God, and we want to be in control, and we don't really truly trust what God says. And if I'm honest, I feel like I've been in that spot with my actions. Like I'm acting like I know better than God. And if I'm honest, like I just don't really trust God like I say I do. And that's just a heart check. And sometimes you gotta do heart checks and be honest with God and honest with yourself and honest with the people around you. And I feel like a lot of people feel like that. I think a lot of people think that. Whether they've come to the realization or not, whether it's intentional or unintentional, they think that. And so I think that goes along with the verse where God is saying people love him with their mouths, but their hearts are far from him. And like I said, I just think a lot of people are always in that spot where they think they know better than God. For whatever reason, whatever they're going through, they think they know better than God, and they just don't trust God. And so I read Job the other day, the book of Job. It's pretty long. It took me maybe a few days because I was pacing myself. Because I really wanted to just understand what happened. I think I read Job a long time ago, or either I started reading it and I never finished. But I always knew the story of Job, so I just really wanted to read it and understand what happened to Job. And I also wanted to hear what God said to Job, because Job was in that spot where he thought he knew better than God, and he was a little upset with God. And I'm not gonna lie, it's a little understandable. Like, Job lost everything. He was going through it, so it was a little understandable that he was frustrated. And he was expressing his frustrations to his friends, and they're like having a back and forth about what's going on. And it's honestly really relatable. I highly encourage everybody to read the book of Job, because it's just about a man that's going through a very hard time, and he's expressing his frustrations with God, and he's expressing his frustrations to his friends, and he's saying like, no, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? I don't deserve this. Like, I'm a good person. And I think that most people feel the same way. Like, they feel entitled to certain things, and they're angry about certain situations, and they don't feel like they should be going through things because they're a good person. But we know nobody's good except the Father. But it's kind of understandable that people will be frustrated. Like, God, why is this happening to me? And so that's what Job basically said. He's just like, hey, yo, like, what's up? Like I'm, God, I love you and I try to do your will. So like what's happening? And so, like I said, the main reason why I read this book was to hear God's response, because I needed to hear what God had to say about how he feels when we try to buck at him, or like when we think we know better. Like, I needed to get humbled a little bit. And God delivered, like always. Amen. He delivered exactly what I needed to hear. And it was very humbling. These words are very humbling. So, in Job chapter 38, God starts to speak to Job. He finally gives Job the business and humbles him and lets him know, like, I'm God. Doesn't matter what's happening or what you think is happening or what you think you know. You have no clue and you don't know better than me. Like, I'm the Almighty. I created the whole world. Like, really? You think you know better than me? Like, you really want to question me? Despite the fact that you think it's a bad situation, I'm still in control. I'm still God. And so I highly recommend. Sometimes we all need a dose of, like, just sit down and be quiet. And this is definitely that dose of sit down and be quiet. So Job chapter 38, God says, I'm just going to read a little bit of it. Then the Lord spoke to Job out of the storm. He said, who is this that obscures my plans with words without knowledge? He's like, so you asking me questions and you don't know nothing. That's kind of funny. Okay. Then verse 3, brace yourself like a man. I will question you and you shall answer me. Verse 4, where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Since you think you know everything, where were you when I created the earth? Hello? Can you tell me? Tell me if you understand. Who marked off its dimensions? Surely you know. I'm sorry. I laugh every time. I laugh a lot of times when I read the Old Testament because God is just so funny. And not in like a comical way, but he really be getting folks together. And this is just honestly what I need to hear. This is so funny. Who marked off its dimensions? Tell me, come on, tell me. Surely you know. And this is not me ad-libbing. This is right here. I can't see. Hold on. Oh, here it is. Surely you know. Tell me, Job, since you know everything. Where did this come from? Who stretched a measuring line across it? On what were its footings set? Or who laid its cornerstone? While the morning stars sang together and all the angels shouted for joy. Who shut up the sea behind the doors when it burst forth from the womb? When I made the clouds its garment, and wrapped it in thick darkness. Let's skip down a little bit. Have you ever given orders to the morning or shown the dawn its place? Can you make the sun come up? Can you put all of creation in its place? Job, hello? I don't think so. I circled a lot of things where I was just like, whoa. Let me see. Skip to verse 19. What is the way in the abode of light? And where does darkness reside? Can you take them to their places? Do you know the paths of their dwellings? Surely you know, for you were already born. You've lived so many years. Like, God is just like, God is really gathering Job together. And like I said, I was very grateful to have read that book because that's exactly what I needed. And I'm glad to be doing this Bible study today because I honestly needed to read it again. Because sometimes you just be in that spot where you're just like, or sometimes, like Black Mama say, you be smelling yourself. Think you don't stink. Like, sometimes you don't even be going through nothing. You just get a little too confident, a little too cocky, and you think you don't need God. So whatever it is, if you're like going through something or you're just in a rough patch in your relationship with God, or you're just a little too confident and cocky and you think, oh, I got this money, I got my stuff together, like, what do I need God for? Or whatever the case scenario where you think you're getting a little too big for your britches. I sound so old when I said that. Whatever the situation may be, where you think you know better than God, go read Job. Read the whole chapter. Or not the whole chapter. Read the whole book. And just let God righteously grab you by your collar and get you together. Because that's just what we need sometimes. Sometimes you just need to be gathered. Sometimes you need to be humbled. Sometimes you just need to remember exactly who God is. And not just being humble for no reason. Sometimes you just need to be humbled by the Father. Like, and you just need to be reminded that He's God. And we know nothing in comparison to His everlasting and infinite knowledge of literally everything. Yeah. So go read Job. Just go read it. It's a really good book. Yeah. I think that's it. Let me look again to make sure I'm not missing anything. Yeah. So God starts talking to Job in chapter 38, and he spends the next 2 chapters just gathering him, just gathering his whole life and humbling him. And then Job is like, Job's like, okay, I understand. And I just think it's worth mentioning that in the end, it says God restored his fortunes and gave him twice as much as he had before. So God had a purpose behind what was going on with Job. Even though Job didn't understand it, and honestly, from reading it, I still don't understand why God did what he did in the first place. But that's not for us to understand. It's just for us to say yes and amen and just trust God and know that he knows better than us. That's it. Like I said, go read the book for real. Like, it's so good. It was good to me because this is what I needed to hear. But like I said, whatever you're going through where you think you know better than God, then if you're going through that right now, for whatever reason, highly recommend Job. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. All right, I love y'all, and I'll see y'all in the next one.